Okay, everyone, welcome to an evening reception and a program. My name is Erin Grace, and I am NCITE Strategic Communications Director and something else, a long title. That's all you need to know. I'm already communicating strategically to you right now.
Doing a great job.
Thank you. I'm here all night. Okay. So if you come tonight, we are holding our academic conference. It's our first in-person conference here. So if you are in this room, raise your hand if you're a student connected with NCITE. Awesome. UNO and students from some of our 26 universities, raise your hand if you are connected with one of those other universities, not just UNO. We have 26 in the consortium. Oklahoma's in the house. Very good. Finney, Albany. We actually have people here from 13 states in the District of Columbia and the UK. So it's a very special night for us tonight. We want to get right to it because you don't want to hear me talk, you want to hear them. We want to say a special thanks to our industry partner, Splunk. Raise your hand, Splunk. We have some special guests that the Chancellor will tell you about in just a second. We'll make sure you thank our Chancellor, though, Lee, because she's providing the hooch for tonight. Okay, nothing says good attendance like open bar. Thank you. Okay. And who you have before you tonight are two very special people. So you have Gina Ligon, who is a rockstar professor at UNO, who got this grant from the federal government to the university for 10 years to do counterterrorism research. That's what we do at NCITE. And next to her is Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security. She's got a long title. I'm going to read every word of it. Samantha Vinograd. So Assistant Secretary for Counterterrorism, Threat Prevention, and Law Enforcement Policy. And let me say a quick word about her. She flew into town and she got right to it. She's had meeting on top of meeting on top of meetings we didn't even have on our agenda, by the way. She specifically asked to meet with members of the Omaha community and members of the Afghan community here in Omaha. So she's been working really hard behind the scenes to try to bring the federal government to the most local level. So thank you for doing that. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Chancellor Lee up to give a few remarks before we get started.
Well, thank you, Erin. This is my favorite part of the job after providing the booze. First and foremost, this morning I welcome many of you here. And then I, went on to my work day and I came back and I just see a lot of smiling face. So I want to tell you, Sam said it to me. Where's Sam? Sam said, in 14 years of my career, I was waiting for this moment, right? This sparkling moment. So I really said a lot. Thank you very much, Sam. So tonight I get an opportunity to acknowledge the president of the University of Minnesota, that card is in the house. Congressman Don Bacon. And I know that Senator Mike McDonald somewhere, maybe with the booze. Okay, just kidding. He's supposed to be here. But of course, there's a lot more important people here. I know Mark from Nebraska Farm Bureau is here, over there. So there are a lot more important people here, but I don't want to waste my time by telling all those important people's names. I know that you're going to get a chance to meet them. So tonight, after the fireside chat without the fire, I want to make sure you know that we're going to do some demonstrations with the technology. Now, but what is really important that made UNO NCITE so special is you. We truly integrate and collaborate in the idea of not just research and discovery. The most important part is we bring students along. And I think our Assistant Secretary will agree with that, right? The best defense is to provide a scalable solution to train the mass. So just with that, I want to say thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to the great discussion between Gina and Sam. Now we're on the first name basis. So enjoy tonight's discussion. Thank you.
I think that means we're on for the fireside chat, just a few minutes late. Sorry for Jeff Braunschweiger. He's definitely our board member who is keeping his time right now. So we're getting started. We'll get back on track. So I'm going to start with a question for you that I ask a lot of people in our line of work. and that is what keeps you up at night.
Well, I'll answer your question, but first I just want to say I flew into Omaha. I landed around 11 o'clock this morning, and I came to the university, and I walked into Mammal Hall, and I was greeted by one of the largest groups of the smartest people in this country that I've ever seen. I sat in panels, I engaged with students, and I just want to say, Gina, and to the rest of the NCITE team, and to the University of Nebraska, Omaha, I'm just overwhelmed with all that you're doing here, and feel incredibly grateful for the partnership that you have. I mean, NCITE is a center of excellence across administrations, is so critical to the work of the federal government. And I just feel very lucky to be a partner with you on this journey. And in today's threat environment, we all need to work as closely together as possible. For all the young people in the room, I hope that you will consider a career in this space because we need you. For all the experts that are researching and analyzing everything that's happening around us, please keep at it, because all that you're doing is integrated into the policy strategies and plans that we're trying to put together. And so thank you. With respect to what keeps me up at night, I'm being honest, a lot. A few key things. One is the ongoing normalization of violence. And what I mean by that is we continue to see an increase in attacks in more and more communities. And because of that, I hope that we as a country are not becoming immune to what it all means. What it all means is that individuals motivated by a range of ideologies, and I should note, the Department of Homeland Security and the federal government are ideologically agnostic when it comes to threat. What I mean by that is we are going to investigate and seek to prevent a threat of violence, regardless of the ideological motivation. But what we are seeing is more and more attacks across the country in places that folks consider to be peaceful communities prior to these attacks occurring. And because there's just so many of them, most of which don't even make the media anymore, I just so hope that this country and younger generations don't think that this is okay. And because of that, part of what we're trying to do, so my colleagues in the audience, Bruno, JR, Kevin is somewhere around here, and others, is to educate everybody that we can about the threat, what it means, and how to seek help. That's a long-term process, and that's something the federal government cannot do alone. That is why we are looking for partners, whether it's the public, whether it's mental health practitioners, social services, faith leaders. The list is endless, looking for partners to share that information with and trying to come up with localized solutions. Omaha is a distinct community, much like my hometown in Connecticut is. And we need everybody to come together and to build these prevention networks so that we stop this violence at the earliest possible stage and ensure that everybody understands that this is not an okay way for our children and our families to grow and to thrive. I'll stop with just one rather than listing out the laundry list of things.
Good, we do want to get back to the reception at some point, so thank you. So can you level set for us? You and I talked earlier about the difficulty in communicating to the general public about what it is that we do. So you've heard all of these sessions today, terrorism and targeted violence and extremism researchers. And we are very sometimes cavalier, but also use a lot of jargon in how we talk about the threat. So could you talk to us when DHS refers to this term terrorism and targeted violence? What does it mean to Omaha? What does it mean to this community? What are you trying to get us to think about?
The federal government uses a lot of jargon and a lot of acronyms. I'm going to try to use neither. Targeted violence, we define as an incident of violence in which an attacker selected a particular target in order to inflict mass injury or death with no discernible political or ideological motivation. That often means is an attack based on a personal grievance of some kind. Hardly a day goes by where we don't learn about an attack in a school based on a personal grievance. We unfortunately just saw an incident in St. Louis that fit exactly that rubric. When we talk about terrorism, there is a discernible ideological or political motivation. When we think about terrorism today, I joined, this is going to tell you all how old I am, but I'm okay with that. I decided to join the federal government when I was 18 and a college freshman, and woke up on my big box TV and saw the Twin Towers burning and didn't understand what was going on. When I started studying counterterrorism is international terrorism. Today at the Department of Homeland Security, we are as focused on the international terrorism threat as we are on what we call the domestic terrorism threat. The domestic terrorism threat falls into a variety of categories: racially motivated, anti-government, and the list continues. And what we are trying to do, because the threats are just so virulent, is you use plain terminology and really just to say, if you see an individual who is displaying behaviors that may be concerning, and you're not exactly sure if that individual is going down a path to violence, seek out a trusted voice. That can be law enforcement, or it can be a school resource officer, it can be a public health official, but seek help at the earliest possible stage. Members of the public and people that aren't prevention practitioners don't necessarily need to know the difference between targeted violence and terrorism. What they need to understand is that seeking help at the earliest possible stage really makes a difference, and where to seek help. And the flip side of that, Gina, last point is, we need to build these ecosystems to get help to folks. That means that we need a heck of a lot more public health officials in this country. We have a critical shortage, and that's going to take time. So for all the students in the room, there's no shortage of career opportunities in this space.
Thank you. So you're in the driver's seat for what DHS calls prevention efforts. And so we have one of our congressmen here who's in the middle of his election season. He's got how many days left, Congressman?
I think it's 11.
11 days left to go register and get out to vote. But yeah, so we have 11 days left until our midterms. As we look at this polarization and the political sort of vitriol that's happening in our country, what resources do you think our state and local governments need to be adequately prepared for this midterm election season?
I think it's midterms. I think it's the presidential. I think it's elections in general. We have not, the election related threats, unfortunately, are affecting a range of election cycles and a broad range of election related people and things. So election infrastructure is designated as what we call critical infrastructure by former President Obama. But that phrase has started to mean more things as the threat has metastasized. At DHS, we have, I'm going to use one acronym, an entity called CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which works to protect election infrastructure across the country. That pertains to the cyberspace, which is increasingly fraught with threats, both as it pertains to what we call cyber intrusion, so folks trying to hack stuff, and then foreign influence campaigns as well. And so ensuring that there's enough resources for the cybersecurity of election infrastructure is critical and something we're very focused on. From a physical security perspective as well, we are very focused on sharing as much information we can about actual threats. And DHS is not doing that alone. That's a whole government endeavor in very close coordination with state and local authorities as well. But the important thing is to share threat information and to get resources to these entities and assets as quickly as possible, while letting people know that it is safe to get out to vote, and it is critical to get out to vote whoever you're voting for, wherever you are. We don't want folks to feel dissuaded from doing so based on the threat environment, which is why we're working so hard to maintain the security of the elections.
Right. We hosted a panel at NCITE a couple of weeks ago with some of our election violence related researchers. They're all here today. And we had the Deputy Secretary Wayne Benna for election security in Nebraska here. And his urge was to get out to vote. And he said, it's safe here. We are very safe in Nebraska. They've done all sorts of work to secure our election sites, but he was leaving our session that we had here in Omaha to go to a CISA briefing
Great.
to learn about all of the different protections that we've done in Nebraska to protect our election and our election officials. So thank you for that from a Nebraskan. So we do have a room full of the sharpest minds, I would say, in terrorism research. The largest consortium across the country in counterterrorism and counter-extremism research is right here. And the students who are all here traveling as well. And they're very interested in doing something about it. So what is on your wish list for knowledge or technology products that we could get to work on for you and the department?
How long of a list can I do?
How big of a budget do we have, Dana? I don't know.
I'll name a few things, and the first is not going to surprise any of you, but we need more people working on these issues. So whether it's considering a career in the federal government at DHS, we're hiring, or continuing this work, at universities and throughout the country, it is a plea. Please keep doing what you're doing and try to encourage more folks to do it, because the threat isn't going away and we need more of that. We also hugely benefit from data and research that allows us all to think about how we scale solutions, or we call promising practices. How do we scale promising practices? I was so lucky, again, I'm so lucky to be at this annual meeting, and we had a discussion with one of our colleagues about a really fascinating behavioral threat assessment and management system that's been set up in the county next to Douglas County.
Sarpy County, Kevin Greiger
is
is right
Kevin
here. Yes, he's right here.
And listening to Kevin talk and hearing about the BTM team there, thinking through how we can leverage these promising practices, whether through technology or otherwise, and replicate them in communities across the country, we would really, really value help on. In addition, from a tech perspective, how do we leverage technology to share promising practices, get help to people quickly and efficiently? That's another area. And then finally, how do we, and this is something else we discuss in our roundtables, how do we address the trust deficit? And what I mean by that is, there are cultures of prevention in this country around so many issues: suicide prevention, gang violence, domestic violence, forest fires. I remember drug abuse resistance education when I was a kid. I mean, the list is endless. We do not have that in this country yet around targeted violence and terrorism. We need that such that people trust that if they seek help and get help early, that they're going to avert a crisis. So it's a bit of a communications and marketing exercise, as well as an engagement exercise. How do we engage enough communities face to face that first time for that touch, so that they feel comfortable seeking help locally? So that's a very small microcosm of my list, but I realize people want to get back to happy hour.
No, it's good. It's good. We have our challenge questions and our request for proposals coming up, so we can integrate some of those into it and take action. The last question I want to ask you, in addition to all the researchers, the congressmen, the business owners that are here, I think what all of us have in common is that we're all deeply patriotic in Nebraska, and we are curious about what can the average American do to strengthen our civic fabric and bolster security for all of us.
Excellent question. A few things. One is stay informed. Read as much as you can. Understand what's happening. Take the time to do your own research, do your own analysis, and learn about what's happening in this country. In addition, vote. We talked about that. And I'm going to bring it back to something that is what keeps me up at night. I'm going to get just personal for a moment, but Congressman, you and I were talking about this briefly. You know, my father's a 93-year-old Holocaust survivor. And he taught me from a very, very early age the power of one voice. And this notion that sometimes people don't speak up when they see something concerning or potentially threatening because they don't think their voice matters. And they don't think if they ask for help, it might make a difference. That's motivated me my whole personal and professional life. And in this threat environment, I think it's particularly poignant. We as a country need to be able to come together and work together to mitigate this threat. It is not a political issue. It is a patriotic issue. And so I would just say, everybody has a voice. Everybody has a role to play in preventing targeted violence and terrorism, whether it's NCITE doing the incredible work that you're doing, whether it's members of the public educating yourselves about the threat environment, whether it's public health officials getting trained in preventing targeted violence and terrorism. The list is endless, but we each have a role to play in the space. We each have a voice. And I think that that's critical to ensuring that the fabric of this country remains strong.
Thank you. I want to thank you so much for coming here. This
My
is her
pleasure.
last trip she's taking for the next 3 to 6 months. And it's deeply honoring that you chose Nebraska to be your last stop. One of the things we said early this morning, as you were flying here to us, was that we do this work for government professionals who are deeply taxed and stretched, and we want to help you. And all of us in this room, the students, the faculty, the community leaders are here because we believe in your mission and we see ourselves as a part of it. And we want to be here to provide some solutions for you. So thank you so much for coming. We're so grateful for you being here. And we have a big plate of food waiting for you in the back. So please give a round of applause to Assistant Secretary Vinograd.
Thank you, everybody.
So I think what we have next, unless Erin Grace is going to jump up and tell us, I want to make sure that they see the Splunk poster competition. So that is one thing. Our industry sponsor Splunk here does incredible data visualization work for the federal government and companies. And they sponsored our students to fly here from all of these universities, and they sponsored a poster competition. And so we have their posters all displayed. The students are all here and they want to share their research with you. So please go check out the posters. The other piece that I would say are the technology demos. I know there are 9 and I don't know how to get to them. So I'm hoping that someone can tell me.
There's some tech demo, okay. It works. You saw the first one. There are 9 different demos. There are menu cards that I'm holding right on that table there. You can see some cool, I'm gonna use the wrong tech term because I'm Gen X, so, you know, Atari in there. Why I'm not doing IT innovation for government, but I'll tell you how to get there. So start at the table, grab a menu, and you'll see stuff going on, people wearing goggles and whatnot, and you can step into the metaverse and get properly scared. So that's why you're here tonight. Welcome. Please eat, drink, talk to one another, build community, and check out our tech demos and see the posters. Thank you. And thank you to Gina. Thank you to Sam.
Thank you.